Hello, sports fans. It's your favorite podcast of the week, Athletics Chat. The good-looking gentleman in the middle is rather tired Stuart Weir. He's back in Oxford. Stuart, great to see you.
Yeah. Hi.
How was your trip to Belgrade?
Yeah, I enjoyed the event. In terms of the trip, you have the usual these days, having to have your PCR test before you're allowed in and all this, and has to be done at the last minute to get the timing right. That makes it a bit stressful. But no, I enjoyed the event. I thought it all went really well. We'll go into the details, but I think overall the impression was very positive. One might have liked more spectators, but the venue holds 10,000, which is probably quite a lot, really. And, it's a bit like when we go to the Rome Diamond League, and this 60,000 stadium looks very empty, but actually if you put that same number in Stockholm, it would look good. So initially I was critical of the attendance, but thinking about it, I wouldn't have thought that Birmingham holds anything like 10,000. So then perhaps having a lot of seats doesn't look as good because, but there was certainly it was very close to being full on Spanovic's evening. And the atmosphere there was absolutely rocking. So very positive overall, yes.
All right, I'm going to take you from day by day. Give me some deep thoughts about the presser on Thursday.
Yeah, I think that they had a nice group of people. Unfortunately, Keely Hodgkinson, the British teenage sensation, that was the only contribution she made to the event since she withdrew with not a serious injury, I'm told, but just not wanting to take a risk early in the season. Marcel Jacobs was good value. He chose to speak in Italian. Ryan Krauser's always good value at pressers, I find. There was just one moment when we were just brought back to the realities of life when someone asked Sepko how he felt about being in Belgrade, where there had been street demonstrations in support of Russia. And the president of the Serbian Athletic Federation allowed Ko to answer the question, said, may I just add a word? It is true that there have been street demonstrations in support of Russia, but there have also been street demonstrations in support of Ukraine. And he just left it at that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a juggling match that I was curious how that felt. What was the turnout of media like? How was it from the UK?
There were 5 written press people. BBC were covering it, but they didn't have anyone in Serbia. They were doing it all from the UK, from the TV pictures. But the live stream was very British with Jeff Whiteman, Rob Walker, Hannah England. I can't think who else was there, but that was a nice group.
They had mentioned Tim Hutchings. The funny thing was, I was watching it on Peacock over here. I didn't watch it on NBC at all. And so I had Rob Walker and Hannah England every day. Fantastic duo. And then Jenny Meadows would be called in to do color commentary. She was quite good. Rob is a lot of fun. He's the guy who does World Athletics Radio. And I just remember being sick in Doha one night. And that's how I learned about Mutaz Barshim because Rob was doing that. And he was electrifying. So what we liked over here, there were no commercials. We just got to watch, it was from 3 in the morning till 7 every morning, and then from noon till 4. Yeah, it was fantastic to watch everything. And
the only thing which was slightly confusing for us in the stadium was that we were getting that same feed that you had, but it was about a minute after it was happening live. But if you missed the race and you weren't sure what happened, you could watch it again, and then the commentator would tell you what happened.
yeah, it was very interesting. The on the first day we had the women's shot put. That was pretty cool, and then you also had the women's 60. Talk to me about Mujinga Kambunji. I'm sorry.
I mean, she's 29, and you might think, well, I've got to say, you might think that sprinters are getting towards the end of their career, and then I just suddenly thought of that lady in Jamaica, Fraser Price, is that the name, who seems to get faster with every day. Mujinga Kambunji, I mean, she's been good for a long time, but never quite exceptional. She made the Olympic final in Tokyo and was sixth. Elaine Thompson toyed with the idea of doing the world indoors, but in the end chose not to. Shelley Ann told me that she had been keen to do it, but it hadn't worked out for her. We had, that there are always fast Americans. There was Briscoe and Santa Price. I didn't know a lot about them, but on paper they looked pretty good. So we really thought that they must be in the shout, and one of the Jamaicans possibly. But in the end, it was Kambunji, who had not run that well in the semi, so that she was actually in lane 8. I always remember Lawrence Clark, the British hurdler, who used to say, I like lane 8 because I just run my own race and I'm not distracted by how anyone else is doing. And that's basically what Kambunji did. Everyone was watching the Jamaicans and the Americans in the middle. And then suddenly, you noticed that actually there was this red figure on the extremities who seemed actually to win. So good on her. And interestingly, that the other Swiss girl, Del Ponte, wasn't there. And over the last year or two, I just said she has been the better indoor runner. And she won the European, but for some reason she wasn't there. Mujinga Kambunji did the business, and she is the world indoor champion. You may think that's surprising, but that doesn't really matter what you think, because she finished first and she got the gold medal.
No, the thing about the Swiss last year in Tokyo, but 2 of them under 11 seconds, and it was they have a lovely program over there. She developed through the youth clubs and came up through the ranks. Her sister is a fine hurdler, and it's Switzerland has something to celebrate. I thought that at the U.S. Championships, watching Makia Briscoe and Mary Beth San Price, I was going, wow, I think we may get 2 medals. Now we did, and it tells me that Eugene is going to be a global story, and that athletes need to wake up now and know that that's what's happening. That's one of the overall themes for me was that. But I think the U.S. ended up with 19 medals, 2 golds, no relay medals, and it was pretty incredible. And I'm waiting for those stories to come out. Just
go back to Kambunji. I think that you cannot take anything away from the fact that she is the world indoor champion. But the question is, what can she take from that into Eugene?
Yeah, that's true. No, it's going to be fantastic. I think that it will be the World Indoor Championships has really set up Eugene. And I made a joke over the weekend that after the men's 60, if Eugene doesn't sell out, I will be shocked. It's one of the greatest sporting events, in the world, period. And it looks like things are all focusing on there now. On Saturday, we had 10 different finals with winners from 10 different countries. And if that doesn't say anything about how incredible the sport is, I don't know what does. You want to begin there on Saturday a little bit? Any of your favorite high points?
Well, the two 400 meters. For me, the fascinating question was, everyone knows what a fabulous athlete Shawnee Miller-Weeble is, but she does have long legs and the bends are pretty tight. So the question just in my mind slightly was, would Femke Ball, who is quite a lot smaller, would she just be suited more to the indoor track? But Shawnee just blasted round and was in the lead at the halfway, and Femke Ball couldn't get to her. So she won it. And in a funny sort of way, the men's 400 was quite fascinating too, because we had Jerry Richards, better known as a 200 runner, but of course runs the relay and has got relay medals at Trinidad. And he went out. He was probably the fastest person in terms of top end speed in the race. And he went out and he led at the halfway, but he is a 200 more than a 400. And the question for me was, could he hold on? But he did. He held on and kept going and finished and got a championship record.
My overriding thought on Shawnee Miller-Weeble was she was conservative in that first 200, and she did exactly what she had to do, go out long in MK and Stephanie Ann McPherson right there. So, I thought it was a beautiful race. On the guys' side, Jereme Richards ran perfectly, and the U.S. or the global feed was talking about how he was dedicating the race to the late Diane Lindor, who had died in a car accident in January. I recall Diane at 2012. I also recall him in the World Relays, and he was a tremendous 400 meter runner, and I think that Jereme moving up, he looks fantastic. He reminds me a little bit of Wade Vanderkerk, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does this coming summer. Is he going to do the 400, 200? He's coached by Lance Brauman with Pure Athletic, and I wouldn't be surprised. As is Shawnee Miller-Weeble. Shawnee's has been coached by Lance for a while, and her husband, Maisel, the Estonian decathlete and world champ medalist, trains down there as well. So it's going to be, those 400s were spectacular. Also liked the women's 1500 was interesting. Wasn't as satisfying as the women's 3000. I did enjoy seeing Elle Purrier medal in the 3000. She ran a classic rate. The Ethiopians ran to perfection, and they came very close to sweeping in the 3000. But Elle, she's a championship runner. She kept her cool. Elisa Monzon and so did Gabrielle Dubois-Stafford. I thought they were going to break them up, and Elle got in there for the silver medal. That was great.
Yeah, and of course, it was Ethiopia 135 because
pretty darn impressive. Yeah,
it was. But it was as you say, it looked for a while as if it was going to be a 1-2-3, and I think the two North American runners did well to break them up.
What did you think of the women's pole vault?
Absolutely phenomenal. Just the way that Katie Najot went out was just perfect. And Sandy Morris had a failure. So, as long as it continued like that, then it was going to be a win for Katie. But then Sandy Morris, and the way the champions do, got over 480 when Tina and Katie didn't.
Yeah, I thought the competition was fantastic.
I mean, an interesting dynamic is, of course, that all pole vaulters are friends and are really, there's a great bond and camaraderie among them. And also, Katie and Sandy, being two Americans, are close. And now they've become training partners. So those were all interesting dynamics. I mean, Katie has been quite honest about having won the Olympic gold medal in Tokyo, and at times just finding it a little bit difficult to motivate herself and to go out chasing something more. So in a way, Sandy, having had a frustrating 2021 where she got injured in the qualifying in Tokyo and didn't make the final. But in a way, she made the big decision to switch locations and coaches and so on. So in a way, you might say she's come back harder. But I don't think we've seen the end of this duel. And of course, it'll be interesting when the one or two top pole vaulters who are not in the indoors are joining in the outdoors. I mean, I think that the women's pole vault will be one of the events in Eugene, and I don't think that I have any confidence in saying which of three or four wonderful athletes will be the winner.
Yeah. No, I think you're correct.
Could be Sandy, could be Katie, could be Sidorova, and Tina Suchi, or however exactly she pronounces her name in Slovenian. She did 475 as well, and looked good. So she might just find another few centimeters that it could be her.
Sandy Morris's defense of the pole vault title, Yelena Isinbayeva, I think, is the only other woman who's done that. And so that's kind of cool. So no, it's nice to see Sandy happy. And my girlfriend was watching her and said that I asked her what she thought of the pole vault. And she goes, Sandy Morris is fierce. She has this great look when she's attacking the pole vault, which I think is kind of cool, to see. And I think that's important. Let's talk about the biggest upset of the weekend, the men's shot put. What did you think of that?
Well, I mean, I wrote you a line which was that if the favorites always won, then we wouldn't need to have the competition. I mean, Ryan was gracious, as he always is, but Darlin just produced the big throw. And in something like the shot put, where you can, I mean, it's part of the drama of the field event that when we come on to the one with long jump, we had two people who started with two fouls and then suddenly found the big one, and that was that. So it's just the nature that I mean, I think sometimes it'd be quite interesting to do a shot put competition where you add up the distance thrown over the six throws, because I think that Ryan was probably more consistent, but he didn't produce the big one that Darlin did. So it was interesting that in the press conference beforehand, Ryan was talking about believing that the indoor world record was accessible, but they're all human and didn't manage to produce it on the day.
And Darlin Romani, what was he, fourth in Rio in front of his countrymen. He's had a couple fifths, a couple other fourths. He's been close but no cigar so many times. I was waiting for him to just jump up and go crazy. Rob Walker was going, He's going to get excited. He just isn't that kind of guy. He seemed very happy. You knew he was happy. You knew all Brazil was going crazy for him because he's quite popular. And it was, we've got to, the good thing about our sport and the tough thing about our sport is so many of our athletes are so darn likable, and of course I'd like to see Ryan win. But you know what? What makes it a sport is for him to have competition. And that's really the key. Talk to me about the men's 60, which, and I will give you the lead. I think the men's 60 is the greatest gift the sport could give to Eugene, Oregon, with Marcel Jacobs and Christian Coleman and Marvin Bracey. And take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was one that we genuinely didn't know who would win. But then again, not many people predicted that Marcel Jacobs would win in Tokyo, and he did. Similarly, not, I think people, the smart money seemed to be that Christian Coleman would just have too much top end speed for him, but it didn't prove that. It's just good. I mean, I'm trying to avoid saying, but perhaps I have to say that there have been backstories about both of them in the last year. But you just go by the rules. They're both competing, and it was a great race. It's one of those great sprint finishes that you're not actually sure who has won.
Yeah, here's two observations. One, I think the U.S. totally underestimated Marcel Jacobs. I think that most of the sport underestimated him. I remember reading an interview translated from Italian where Jacobs was talking about how his coach worked on his start, but also worked on his leg strength. And if you looked at that stride and looked how strong he was and how much ground he was taking up, and every race I watched him this season where he went, he won his first 5 out of 6 races. He false started in that one in Belgrade. He got into the lead about halfway and just tore people apart. And that's exactly what he did in this final. I mean, it was oh so close. My take was Christian needed a couple more races. Marvin Bracey ran a fantastic race. U.S. going 2-3 in that one was pretty impressive. I don't think U.S. sprint talents are going away. However, I do think that U.S. coaches, U.S. managers need to understand that there are 209 countries in world athletics, and all you need is a dirt road to go out and run on. And there will be kids, young people. I remember Venuste Niangambo coming from Burundi in 1995. No one knew who he was, and winning the 5,000, winning the 1,500, coming back in the 5,000 the next year, and he didn't have much. And there's athletes out there like that, and they, as Coach Brooks Johnson in the U.S. said, you got to want it. And Bill Toomey, the 68 Olympic decathlete, said, you got to covet it. He who covets it the most. And the covet thing I get a little wishy-washy about, but Marcel won it. He's the fastest man in the world until Eugene. So we'll have to see how it goes. So it'll be fun.
Can we just talk a moment about the women's high jump?
Yes.
It's amusing how Australia has waited forever to have a woman going over 2 meters. And there's Nicola McDermott, and then Eleanor Patterson did it. But, when Yaroslava Makuchik won, for Ukraine, in the midst of everything that's happening, it just seemed so right. And it was an incredibly emotional moment for everyone. And I think it was Eleanor Patterson who had done her nails, not in Australian colours, but in Ukrainian colours. And The athletes, after they win, make speeches in which they thank their coach and they thank their country and they talk about all the people that helped them. Well, Yaroslava just said, "This is for the people of Ukraine. I hope I can bring a little bit of happiness to them in the midst of all that's happening." And she said, "I'm going to Germany now because I can't go back to Ukraine. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know when I'll be able to go back to Ukraine." And, it almost, she was saying it because she had won and was world champion, but really, in a way, it just showed how trivial a high jump competition is, when your friends and family are being bombed.
Yeah. No, she, the story was told in several media places, confirmed it, that she woke up to bombs on February 24th, or the sound of bombing. She was in Dnipro, and she drove 3 days to Belgrade. At 2 meters, it took her 3 attempts to get over 2 meters. And then she cleared 202. And I thought she was tremendous. Lauren Patterson had quit the sport after not making the team for the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games in 18 and came back. She's 25, and I think she looked superb. And I think that it was Yaroslava was the one gold medal that the Ukraine got. They also had a silver medal in the triple jump from Mary Beth Romanchuk, who popped a huge one on her 5th or 6th attempt. And then Romanchuk came back in the long jump and made a go at two.
Yeah, I think she had no plans for the evening. So she said, "Well, I was just going to the long jump."
Yeah. Now
I spoke to her briefly. Afterwards. I just wanted to say to her, "Thank you for coming," and she gave me a big smile.
She's a fun athlete. We've watched her for a long time, and it's nice to see her. There's a lot of the Ukrainians. I just remember Bohdan Bondarenko in 14. My son and I were going to videotape him after his jumping, and there were some Russian reporters with us, and he refused to talk to them. That was right after Mr. Putin had gone into the Crimea, and there were several other Ukrainians at the time pretty upset, and we were just trying to respect that. It was very interesting. I thought Seb Coe and World Athletics has handled this well. They went after it with precision about banning the ANA athletes, the athletes from Russia and Belarus. Of course, we missed Maria Lazinskaya, and of course, we missed Anzelika Sidorova and some of the other Russian athletes. But if you're going to be part of the global village, then you don't go in and chase 10 million people out of their own country. And that's just, it's just not acceptable. And it was interesting last night after the World Champs ended. I watched a documentary film on the 1936 Olympics and Jesse Owens, and not only how he was treated by the Nazis, but which he never met Hitler. Hitler stopped. Actually, it was after Cornelius Johnson won the high jump. Cornelius died during World War II. After he did the high jump, Hitler refused to meet athletes, and so he stopped going to the games. But Owens said years later that it was one thing for Hitler not to congratulate him. He never got a congratulations from President Roosevelt, which is the thing that really upset him. So it was a very different situation in 1936, because especially Black Americans were being treated poorly in the U.S., and they went to Europe, and they were actually treated much better. So and now we've got, Russia invading the Ukraine, and it's affecting everything. But as you said, it's interesting that we could get so many people together, 612 athletes from around the world, to compete in Belgrade. Talk to me about Sunday. Rob Walker said it was the day that, the day that Ivana soared, or the day that Ivana soared and the day that Mondo roared, which I got a kick out of.
Yeah, I mean, what was particularly exciting for me was that there were the 3 world records, and I actually saw them all. Because you know what it's like. So often you're at an event and there's too much happening, and you look away, or you're downstairs trying to speak to an athlete in the previous race. But I was actually there when Rojas, Grant Holloway, and Mondo got their world records, and it was phenomenal. I mean, Mondo had 3 attempts at 620, and his first 2 were very poor. He was nowhere close, and you thought, after a second when he just sat on the mat for a bit, and I was wondering if he was just about to stand up and applaud the crowd and say, "That's enough, I've got my gold medal." But no, he went back, and of course there was the oddity of having 2 relays taking place before, after, and during, so that at times they were waiting for him, and at other times he was waiting for them. But, he produced the big jump when he needed it. Phenomenal. And I mean, Rojas winning by a meter. I mean, how can you win by a meter?
That's true. It was, one of my treats was getting to see Ajay Wilson again today. Ajay has had silvers and bronze galore, and she was boxed in over that first 2 laps, and then she made her move with 600, and that party was over. And she had one of the biggest winning margins ever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was backing Natalia Gould to win that, and I've been trying to think through the race, because Natalia has improved so much, but in the Olympics final, she got her tactics wrong and came in 8th, and I just wondered, when she went out first. I mean, she likes front run, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in a way, Ajay made such a phenomenal break that sometimes that happens, and I don't fault Natalia. But then he dropped from first to second to third to fourth, and in a way, I don't know what you take from this. I'd love to be a fly on the wall as she and her coach discuss how the race unfolded and what she might have done differently. I mean, ironically, I was sitting watching the race with Danielle Williams, the hurdler, who is a close friend of Natalia's. And I don't know. I do hope that Natalia is not psychologically damaged by seeing that happen and to reach 2 finals in 9 months and really not deliver what she's capable of. I do hope that she will find a way of processing that and move on.
She's a tremendous athlete. Well, my friend, you have survived 40 minutes in Athletics Chat 91 with me. I think we're going to leave some of our favorite moments on the World Indoor Champs till next week, because there's still a lot more to talk about. Get some rest, my friend. Thank you again for everything. And this is Larry Eater with Stuart Weir, Athletics Chat 91. Thanks to our friend Mike Deering, our production and creative manager at the Shoe Addicts, for keeping us on task and somehow trying to manage both of us. And Stuart, good to see you, my friend. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Hey, sports fans, Athletics Chat 91. This is the epilogue, your favorite part. It's Monologue with Larry, where I just talk to myself. So, World Indoor Championships, Belgrade, Serbia, this last weekend. Our friend Stuart Weir was over there. We got wonderful pictures from World Athletics. We had pictures from Stargazer Pics. We had pictures from Kevmo Photo. If you're checking out our social media, and many of you were, you got updates for the last 3 days. Some exciting moments. I think the biggest upset of the entire weekend was Ryan Krauser not winning the shot put. Darlan Romani from Brazil won. But how can, it's hard for me to feel sad. Ryan took the silver, and this is a competitive sport. And of course, I want to see Ryan win. Like, I want to see him get those big largemouth bass when he goes fishing. But Darlan Romani is one of the really nice guys in the sport. He's taken 4th and 5th in global championships. And the Brazilian does it the old-fashioned way. He threw the farthest. That's what it's about. You know, throwing the farthest, running the fastest, jumping the longest. Speaking of jumping the longest, Ivana Spanovic-Valletta, she won for all of Serbia, gave them their gold medal, defended her title from Birmingham with a 7.06 meter. S.A. Broom from Nigeria gave, it's interesting with S.A. She won the first medal for Nigeria in a bit in the Tokyo Olympics. And I think it's 14 years since Nigeria had an indoor medal, and she took the silver. Tremendous jumping from her. And Lauren Ugan from the UK was the bronze. The 100 or the 60s. Let's talk about Mujinga Kambunji, the Swiss athlete, all of 29. You've seen her win medals in Europe. You've seen her win medals world indoors. She was bronze in 18. She took the gold this time. Makia Briscoe and Mary Beth Sanpierre, and then Ella Swoboda were duking it out in the middle of the track. And Mujinga was off in lane 8, and she clocked everybody. Ua Swoboda, who had the fastest time up to that, finished, I believe, 4th. And it was Makia Briscoe's first time under 7, 6.99. And Mujinga Kambunji's set a Swiss record as well as a championship record with her 6.96. On the men's side in the 60, it was the dream race, Marcel Jacobs versus Christian Coleman and Marvin Bracey. And Marcel Jacobs won by the tiniest of margins, but he won. And the key to his race was his last 30 meters. I think that the U.S. underestimated the Italian. You should not, and you should know that, because that race in Eugene, the men's 100, those tickets will be going for thousands of dollars. So get them now. All I can tell you is Marcel Jacobs will be there to compete. So will Christian Coleman. So will Marvin Bracey. So will the other athletes from around the world. And it will be a spectacular event. I believe the men's 60 totally set up the world champs in Eugene. And if you are not there, you're not a track fan, bottom line, because this is going to be fantastic. And we're happy that our friends in Eugene have the wonderful stadium and the new Hayward Field, which should be a tremendous host to the meet. I love Eugene. There's breakfast burritos on Saturdays, a great farmer's market. There's all kinds of places to go to, places to hike. It's a beautiful city. It's a little bit more rural. And so people will be coming in from Portland, going in Eugene, but it should be a kick. And the world indoor champs in Belgrade, Serbia have given us some great performances. On Sunday, Jacob Ingebrigtsen lost to Samuel Tafara, who defended the men's 1500. Ethiopia did well in men and women's 1500, men and women's 3000s. They led the medal count with gold medals. The U.S. had 19 medals overall, 2 golds. The golds were Grant Holloway in the 60-meter hurdles and Aj Olsen in the women's 800. No medals in the relay, which was a big shocker to me. But there'll be more for us to talk about next week with Stuart Weir. on our part 2 of the World Indoor Championships. And that'll be in Athletics Chat 92. But this is Larry Eater, Athletics Chat 91, Epilogue. Peace out. Thanks to Mike Deering, our production and creative manager from the Shoe Addicts, who manages our podcast.